You know what I mean? So, the questions are on here. And then on the back of your page, I kind of have them all written down. So if you want to check them off as we go. And then I'll be on the site too, so you don't have to worry about it all the checking it off.
I was hoping we'd be right there. Seeing that Patrick.
You can or just have it there.
Okay, yeah. I was gonna say, yeah, purple just to stand there.
That's what I thought. That's why I was gonna have this set up on the side, so people
Yeah.
got on board. But he said that it'd be nice to be able so people can see you being live streamed
Oh, okay.
and see you asking and talking to them directly.
Okay.
So that's when if you want to just welcome everybody, do your spill, and let her ask the questions. You're good with that too. You can give us,
Oh, I'm fine with that
moderate
too.
everything. Okay.
Let her. If she wants me to help, that's fine. But I'm happy to let her, as long as she doesn't expand on the questions. But she just has to ask them. Yeah.
Yes.
It seems like the kind of place that deserves a gavel.
Probably do, yeah. Well, at least Amanda's here, because I was worried. How you doing, man? Good. Didn't realize they had bars on the ground. I'll probably go try and cheated and looked up here. 'Cause
How are you, Mindy?
Yeah. Yep. We had some big meetings one time. We had to move it to the junior Minecraft one.
Oh, yeah.
How come they got over those bonds?
Three of them in there.
That was one time. The other time was over when they didn't get billed up in. Had like 600-700 people show up.
Pretty fancy. Yeah.
Cookies?
That was it. I guess it was about as big as this.
Oh, yeah.
So do you just get to drive cool cars and just write articles about them, and then that's it?
Kinda, but they're not always so cool. Like last week, well, I had the Z. Yes, that was cool. I also had a V. I don't know if you saw that.
I did see that one.
This week I have a Honda Civic R. But next week
sometimes
Yeah.
don't you
I've
feel
done
that?
that for like,
That's not a bad
People ask you about what
That's
you
not
actually
my-
do. It's connected to so many other things. You
my
pull on that
job.
thread, it's
Driving
everything
cars
else.
is not my
They
job.
are all interconnected.
I run a newspaper, so I
You got-
found a way to get a car, and since I run a newspaper,
Yeah, but like, do you own the car though?
yeah, I run the truck.
Okay, well, thank you for being here tonight. We want to thank Springville City for letting the Chamber host the Meet the Candidate night tonight. And we would also like to thank the candidates for being here. We are so glad you're here that you can share your campaign ideas and your thoughts for Springville City. We want to thank those that are attending here and online with us tonight and supporting this event and taking time to get informed of the upcoming voting. And thanks to our Springville board members that are here helping facilitate that tonight. So thank you all for being here. Now, the candidates are seated in order of the names on the ballot. Each candidate will have 1 minute to introduce themselves and share their key points for running for city council. Questions have been gathered from the community and from businesses and will be drawn randomly for each candidate. You will have 60 seconds to respond. A warning will be given at 15 seconds remaining, and the warnings are right here. You'll have your 60 seconds and then 15 seconds. Now, we also would like to point out that interruptions are unacceptable during this event. We ask that those attending here live tonight will hold their applause and comments until the end of the evening, just so that we can get through as many questions as we possibly can. Now, at the conclusion of the evening, candidates will have 2 minutes to present their closing statement. And then, are we still take the notes on that? Yeah, so, okay, great. So take notes while the questions are given, because during this time, candidates may answer any questions they were or were not asked if desired. And then what we're going to do, we're just going to get right into it tonight. And we're going to start with Logan. Logan Millsap. I am going to draw the first question.
I think it's their introduction.
Oh, yeah,
Well, there was that, but, you know.
introductions. That is right. So Logan, I apologize. Logan, introduction, please. And you watch your timer.
Is that one also 1 minute? Okay. My name's Logan Millsap. I love the city a lot. I've been pretty dedicated over the last 4 years attending city council meetings, and so I feel like I'm pretty plugged in on a lot of the projects that are happening around the city, and I have a really good handle on the issues that are happening. Some of those main issues I see are not enough housing for our kids and grandkids to be able to live in the city where they grew up. Also, transportation and traffic congestion, and I think we need to get a little bit more smart about how we manage that if we don't want to become some kind of car hell like Orem State Street in our lovely community. And I feel like I am very, very much I'm just interested in serving. I've had the chance to meet many of you and get to know you really well, and so I want to be a good servant to you and to this community and a good steward. So thank you for being here.
Hi, I'm Mindy Wright. I'm a longtime resident of Springville. Grew up here. I'm Korean. I was adopted as a baby from Korea by my parents, Jeff and Cheryl Huff. I grew up just a few blocks east of the old Brookside Market in Polar King, so I have a lot of memories of Springville. I think I chose to serve because of what Springville has done for me. I love the city. I feel safe here. I feel like there's a lot of recreation. I feel like this is a great place to live. I want my kids to be able to continue to want to live here as well. And there are some things that need to be fixed and changed. And I think a balanced, proactive planning can help Springville's growth. And so I just really appreciate the opportunity that I have to come here and share those thoughts with you today.
Hi, I'm Hunter Huffman. I am not a lifelong resident of Springville, but I am here with my family. We've been here about 5 years. I have 4 kids, and we are in the process of creating memories for them here in Springville. And so the thought process of trying to run for city council for me was trying to help create a great environment for my family and my kids and other families. I feel like there's a lot going on in the world that is an attack, at least for me, is the way I perceive it on a family. And part of that thinking also is, as I have a background in architecture, development, and urban planning, is to be able to provide a built environment that is good for families to be able to thrive here in Springville. So I feel I bring a valuable expertise, but also a family background to be able to give to the families here in Springville. Thanks.
Hi, my name is Craig Conover. I will go on and say yes, I have grown up in Springville too. First off, I would like to thank the Chamber of Commerce, though, for providing this opportunity for us all to be here today. I've been on the Chamber of Commerce for many years, since like '84, I think, on their board of directors. So I've grown up in the business community in this town. My family owned a business here. I currently work at the Daily Herald, so I have the opportunity to go throughout our county all the time and meet with businesses and business leaders and county leaders and different people like that throughout the county. I think I offer a unique perspective that way, if I were to be on the city council, in the fact that I have developed and have many different relationships with, well, not only county leaders, but business leaders and university leaders and people like that. And so I can use that expertise to have different ideas and to help with out-of-the-box ways of making things work better here in Springville. I'm a huge advocate of business and will always be an advocate of business and the Chamber here in Springville. Thank you.
Jake Smith, also a lifelong resident. I just barely did a bio, and somebody sent me that I'm a sixth generation Springvilleite on both sides, which I'm proud of. Married, have 4 kids. Currently work at Haupt Electrical as their CXO, specifically over people stuff, and I feel like that is something that I bring here, dealing with complex people issues. Part of the reason I decided to run was when I couldn't drive down 4th South, and I'm stuck, and it made me bothered, and I took to social media and realized that's not the place to find out the information that I want to have. And so I want to become involved. I'm a very, wow, that was fast. I'm a very curious person, and so I'd like to find out more, and I hope to bring a fresh set of eyes to the city. Thank you.
Okay, first question for Logan. We're just going to go like this. And each of you will have a different question. The phrase affordable housing is used often. What are your thoughts on addressing this issue in Springville?
We are going to lose the next generation of Springvillans because we are simply not building enough homes to make room for them. They're getting pushed to places like Eagle Mountain and Santaquin and Tooele, where they can actually afford to live. If we want to be able to have those people, our families, live near us, not with us, then we need to make more room. And the way we do that is what's called missing middle housing. So right now we're kind of building a lot of single family and a lot of apartment towers, and we're not getting any of the stuff in the middle, things like duplexes and twin homes and row homes and granny flats and maybe little fourplexes. These are the kind of things that we can mix into the fabric of our neighborhoods to make a lot more room for people, but it won't radically change the feeling of our neighborhoods. You know, we all love our neighbors, and so I think we should all try to find creative ways to make more of that missing middle housing and have more neighbors to love.
Thank you. Why are you running for public office?
Oh, I like that question. I chose to run for Springville City Council because I have been given so much through the city. I grew up here, went to school here, all my friends are here, family's here. It has given me a lot, but the things that I want to focus on and my priorities and why I decided to run is because how Springville continues to grow matters to me, and it matters to my kids, and future generations. And I really want to make sure that we have a good plan in place that will withstand many years, but something that will be also balanced for business growth and for residential growth. So those are some of the reasons why I chose to run for city council, but also because simply I just want to make a difference. I want to be able to add a different perspective. I want to be able to contribute and to serve my fellow citizens.
Thank you.
Okay, Hunter. Economic development is critical to any city. Explain what you would do to help build Springville's economy.
So, like what Craig was mentioning, I'm a big fan of local business, and I think the best way to integrate or allow more opportunity for local business is to allow for that to happen organically throughout the community rather than in commercial centers only like Main Street or over in the Westfields by Smith's. Fourth South is actually a great example of a way that's already done here in Springville in terms of residential housing right next to dentist offices, Reams, the Anytime Fitness, any types of commercial business that can be involved and integrated within a neighborhood level is actually a better way to develop rather than sprawling out and out and out and then having cannon mortar fire of cars on places like Walmart or Smith's. So in terms of economic development, I feel that would provide just more opportunity for even local business to grow, but also allow for a diverse type of businesses to be able to come to Springville.
Okay, thank you. What are your thoughts about improving diversity, equity, and inclusion?
So, sorry, I don't.
What are your thoughts
What
about
are you looking for?
improving?
In the city offices, I'm trying to understand.
This question is, what are your thoughts about improving diversity, equity?
Well, I didn't know that we had a problem with it here in Springville, so I haven't really thought about that, and I will leave it at that. Because I don't. If that's a big problem, then I guess we'll have to address that.
Okay, thank you. Jake, what would you like to see from local chambers in terms of working positively and proactively with you?
I think I'd just love to see good communication. I mean, I had a great conversation with Mrs. Jackson just barely to help educate me a little bit more on that. I haven't been a member forever, like, I don't mean forever, but, you know, a long time, you know, but I think having good communication, a good spirit of collaboration and to listen, I think is really important.
Thank you. Okay, Logan, if elected, how will you work with other city council members to address community concerns, promote public safety, and encourage and support small business growth?
We're pretty fortunate in Springville. I mentioned I've been coming to council meetings for about 4 years, and even though sometimes the council members disagree, they work really collaboratively and they find good compromises. And each council member brings different things to the table, you know, different community members they've talked to or life experiences. And so I really look forward to working with, you know, at least 2 more of you guys on the council, as well as Mike Snelson and Craig Jensen, because I know that through that collaborative approach, we can solve Springville's problems. We can really address the needs of Springvilleans. And then part of the reason we have a council of multiple people is so that it's easier to kind of have that network and reach out to, you know, for example, the Chamber of Commerce or individual business owners or the school district. All of those connections, all of that network is really how we keep this city running. And it's a big, giant, complicated job, and it doesn't happen with one person alone.
Thank you. The Allens block is a hot topic.
Yes.
How would you like to see Allens block developed?
Well, I was actually just sitting in on a planning commission meeting a few weeks ago, and they had showed us the whole plan. They're going to do retail on the bottom and then apartments about 3 or 4 floors high, and then some townhomes along the side. And I do feel that that is key to our downtown revitalization. We need to add a little retail mixed in with doors. And doors, I mean people that will come and live here, walk around here, spend their money here. I think it all is connected and will actually add a lot vibrancy to our downtown.
Thank you. How do you plan to involve residents in the decision-making process in our town?
So, sorry, I'll speak into the mic, but I do think there does need to be a little bit better of an outreach to citizens to be able to have them more in the know and more involved in terms of the decisions that are made. In the times that I've been either watching or attending city council meetings, it's scary as far as how little people attend. And so in terms of trying to better attendance, I would try and figure out better ways besides the newsletter or utility bills to be able to get people to care more about what is going on in the city, because I do think there's a lack of knowledge and know of what the average citizen in Springville needs in terms of being able to address that. I think there's ways, whether it's specific bulletins on doors or social media, there's a lot of different ways that I think the city can improve of targeting their audience a little better.
Thank you. What do you believe is the proper level of council member involvement with day-to-day city operations?
I'm kind of a get into it guy. I like to be involved. So in the past, when I've served on the council and I'm been assigned to different departments, I get very involved with what they're doing. Be it the Parks Department, I want to know, I want to be involved. Do I want to be the boss? No. But I want to be a help. I want to do all that I can to help them do the best that they can. I get that we're a growing city and we have a big staff and a lot of things like that now, but I really like to be a problem solver in that kind of a situation and help them in any way that I can, whether it's economic development. I've been very involved in that kind of a situation before. I've been very involved with power situations and purchasing and buying power and helping the power department to grow and getting new engines and things like that so that our power rates can stay, at a great rate that we have here in our community. So I really like to be involved. I am not the kind of guy, if you're looking for somebody that's just going to come down here and vote yes or no, that's not me. I'm going to get involved and I'm going to make a difference.
Thank you. Springville City recently had a utility rate increase. How would you respond to citizens' complaints about tax increases and utility rate increases?
I have responded to this as people have asked me why I'm running, and they bring that up. And I think that Troy actually sent me some really good information to show where Springville falls. And we're at the very bottom of the list as far as of taxes, and that there are times that those taxes have to go up incrementally, but Springville's in a really good place with that.
Thank you. How are we doing on time? Okay, very good. This is a long one. Okay.
Oh, you better write that down.
Recent history has shown that council members are sometimes asked to vote amongst themselves to fill a vacancy when a spot opens outside of election cycles. What traits, in terms of resume, philosophy, and disposition, would you look for in a candidate for city council?
This is a great question because I've seen it happen a few times in the last years, and I've been in those meetings and even presented myself as an option. And I understand in one of the times when this happened, they ended up choosing someone who had served before because that person had experience already on the council. It's a decision I personally disagreed with because I think we have a lot of people who are willing to serve and ready to serve. And so the qualifications I would look for are obviously passion and a desire to kind of get into the details, as Craig said. But also I think it's good to have a diversity of opinions and viewpoints and life experiences on our council. And so, for example, that one I mentioned, that example I mentioned when they chose someone who had already been on the council, I probably would have personally chosen one of the women candidates who was running because at the time we lacked women on the council. So there you go.
Thank you. I got another big one.
I'm writing it down.
One of the council members' board assignments will be working with the library. The library offers award-winning, can't read that. Award-winning, I'm going to say, is it service? Okay, yeah, award-winning service for all the diverse members of our community. How do you plan to support the library and community if elected?
I think that's what falls under public service. I think that a library in our community has drawn. It's what I call a gem of our community. It offers so many different activities, not just books. They've moved to e-readers. They have a lot of different options there, as well as the wonderful activities that they offer to the youth. It generates a lot of community, good camaraderie there, and I feel like it is important. It's important as our garbage service or our police department or our fire department. I feel like the public service that it offers is immeasurable.
Thank you.
You're fine.
What is there in the overall view of Springville that you see could be improved, and what will you do to promote improvement in that area?
A lot of or at least not a lot, but some of that has already started to take place in terms of, my head always goes to development and zoning measures because that's what is always top of mind for me. But what the community development department here in the city has started to do is starting to take a more active role in terms of rezoning certain areas of Springville that are prime for development, but it's not going to probably look like Spanish Fork, which may frustrate some residents. But as I was explaining to some people earlier tonight, I wouldn't want to live next to Costco in Spanish Fork. I would want to live somewhere where my young kids should be able to walk to where we go now at Reams. So in terms of the things that can be improved, I think the zoning and the approach to the way developers come to our city could be improved in terms of wanting to get more people to want to develop here in Springville rather than be apprehensive about it.
Thank you. Do you think that our Main Street downtown is healthy and successful? If not, what would you do to change that?
To an extent, it is healthy and successful. I think that there's a lot of steps that have been made. Carla's worked on a lot of that to help with the reframing of downtown. I think that they're trying to encourage other businesses to locate down here, smaller businesses, things like that. I think that with the development of the Allens block, some of that will happen, and hopefully that we can encourage some really great restaurants and things like that to locate within that block that will help revitalize downtown. I think people really like coming down here. I think when the farmers market happens, it seems like there's a synergy going on down here. And I think with as we move forward, if we can continue with that synergy and continue with that energy, that we could produce more things downtown. I know there's some works in the parks to do some enhancement of the park over here to help with entertainment venues and things like that. It will encourage people to come and stay. And hopefully the Villa/Rivoli continues to grow and develop, and that would be a great boon also to help with things downtown and to help encourage other restaurants and things like that to locate here. Thank you, Amanda.
Thank you. How will you balance growth and stability? Sustainability, sorry. Let me say it again. How will you balance growth and sustainability?
What a great question. I think that, Springville is going to grow. There's no stopping that. And, watching the planning and zoning, and how that's happening is going to play into the sustainability of our city. And I would support the things that are already in motion.
Okay, thank you. You're still good? Okay.
Ooh, I like the long ones.
We are experiencing growth. With this growth, traffic congestion will increase, creating a need for a new look at transportation infrastructure. What is your vision of the future of our transportation infrastructure, and how will your vision be funded?
This question is right up my alley. Transportation is kind of my expertise. So we currently have a city where people don't have a lot of transportation options. It's either get in your car or stay home. And this creates this kind of vicious cycle where kids can't walk safely to school without maybe risking getting hit, or where businesses sometimes struggle to stay afloat because a lot of dollars are going to places like Spanish Fork and Provo. If we want to kind of reverse this vicious cycle and create a virtuous cycle, we need to make it so that it's safer and more enjoyable for people to walk and cycle and spend their dollars locally. I was part of the Active Transportation Committee. I helped draft a citywide plan for safer sidewalks and crosswalks and bike lanes. Now, sometimes people think it's an either-or thing, cars versus bikes, but really we just want to create a lot of options for people so that when you're taking your kid to school, you maybe don't have to take the SUV, you can just walk, or they can ride their bicycle or their scooter.
Thank you. These are folded, and I don't know who gets which one. How can organizations like the Springville Mapleton Chamber of Commerce be an asset to the city council?
Well, they are an asset because they host all the different businesses in our communities, and I feel like they also are a source for any entrepreneur or for any business to come into and look at and ask questions about the growth of other businesses. Will Springville be able to support that business? I feel like it is an asset for our community, both Springville and Mapleton, to be able to invite other businesses to come in and help be a resource to our current businesses, especially with our city council. You are a group, and you can represent all the different businesses, and you'll have members behind you to back that up.
Thank you. You've all addressed the term transparency in your campaigns. Will you give us your definition of transparency and address how you intend to improve transparency?
I feel like I'm kind of an open book. So in terms of transparency, I'm not one to shy away or to say something that's going to please you if that's what you're looking for. I am very much the type of person that will just tell you what either my opinion is or the truth is. And in terms of improving that within the city, I guess it could relate back to the way what I mentioned earlier in terms of there does need to be a better model to activate citizenship and be able to get people more involved in terms of city government, because it has been surprising with how little involvement, at least active involvement, there has been. And I say that, but Springville is just a great place to live. I'm running for city council because we don't plan on going anywhere. We love it. But there are things that we can do to improve, like always. So,
Thank you. How do you feel about transportation options currently available in our city? Can all of our residents affordably get where they need to go? If not, what will you do to improve transportation in our city?
The easy answer is no. You can't get where you want to go. We have one bus route that runs through the city, yet we pay the same amount of taxes as everybody else for that bus in Orem, Provo, or wherever. I would fight to get more buses here, to get more ways to get people transported around our community and to other communities. I know that the long-range plan forever has been to get a front-runner station down here, which looks like it may happen in my lifetime or your lifetime. However, I would work with people in the legislature to encourage that to happen sooner than later, because we need more options for transportation. Logan touched on transportation a little bit, but we need ways to move people around, to move them to work if they work in other communities, and it's hard because we really don't have any options here in Springville besides getting in a car and going somewhere. So I would diligently work to make that happen.
Thank you. How do you define engagement? How will you engage with the community, and how will you garner engagement from the community?
Yeah, I love being engaged, and I think that it lends to my skill set at work dealing with complex problems, people problems. And I'd love to kind of get in the weeds and engage with the people. And it comes back to that spirit of collaboration and being able to communicate clearly and concisely and to make sure that we can all just collaborate. This is super uncomfortable up here, by the way. Anyway, you're all doing really good.
Yes.
Thank you.
You always save the long ones for me.
Okay. Active transportation is a relatively new term in the overall transportation infrastructure discussion. Active transportation is any self-propelled, human-powered mode of transportation, such as walking, cycling, scooters, skating, etc. Where do you see a need in the overall transportation infrastructure discussion for active transportation, and how do you see Springville City resources being put to use to accommodate active transportation?
So as I mentioned, I'm very much in support of active transportation. I'm not just someone who talks the talk. I literally walk the walk. My wife and I use a cargo bike as our main vehicle. We ride the bus. It's great. People should do it more often. We do this not just because it saves us personal money. I mean, that's kind of why we started, to save money. But really, the reason we've gotten more and more involved in active transportation and walking and biking and riding the bus is because we've seen what it does for our own personal lives and our community. When you're outside of your car a little bit more often, not for every trip, I'm not saying every trip has to be active transportation, but if you get out just a little bit more often, I promise you will feel more connected to your community. You'll feel more alive every day. I will always preach the gospel of active transportation because it can do so much for our city, for our local economy, for our infrastructure. Basically, any problem in the city comes back to land use and transportation.
Thank you. If you received $1 million grant to use for the city any way you wanted, what would you do with it and why?
$1 million sounds like a lot of money, but for a city, it is not a ton of money because I definitely would love to add some type of activity center. I know we have the rec center, and that's wonderful, but I feel like one of the previous candidates, Nate Shaw, he ran on the platform of trying to get more of our youth involved in different activities, healthy, wholesome, better than just riding up the canyons, making mischief, things like that. I feel like I would like to try to have more activities, build or offer, a third party to come in to our city to have a little bit more options for activities for our youth. That's probably where I'd put that money.
Thank you. There is a lot of chatter on local social media pages about why Springville can't be more like Spanish Fork in terms of retail, restaurants, movie theaters, etc. How do you feel about that?
This is probably going to create some controversy on social media. I think Spanish Fork can keep their type of development and what they have. I don't think that screams Art City, what Springville is to me. What the proper type of growth and development that I think would match or exceed what they have in terms of amenities that they're getting would be more neighborhood focused and neighborhood scaled. so that people would be able to walk to the downtown theater, or they can walk to their neighborhood playhouse. They can go to the corner restaurant or corner cafe. That type of business growth and development, in my mind, and historically has shown it is more sustainable, and sustainable meaning it lasts longer. We are not needing to tear down and put back up. So often it's more places and place making rather than creating a place, sorry Spanish Fork, but that looks like anywhere else.
Thank you. What's more important for our city right now? Building new homes and commercial space, or rehabbing, expanding, better utilizing our existing homes and storefronts?
I think it's a combination of both. I think we do need the economic development. We do rely on that in the city. Sales tax is a huge component of any city, especially in Utah County. So helping to get new businesses is used, but also helping to keep our businesses that are currently in business to do well is also a really good thing. Having the ability to continue to sell a lot of products and things like that is fantastic for our current businesses that are obviously members of our Chamber of Commerce. So I think it's really both. I don't think you can do one and not do the other. And as far as housing goes, I know there's a lot of opportunity in Plat A to use some different ways of getting money to rehab those homes. As far as the rest of the town, I think that's kind of up to the citizens. And as we grow, the new homes are going to be where they are and things like that. But it'll be difficult, but it's something we'll have to accomplish.
Thank you. How do you feel about Springville's cultural centers and activities that are at least partially funded by taxpayer dollars? For example, Springville Museum of Art, the library, Art City Days, Springville World Folk Fest, holiday festivals, Public Arts Mission, and the Arts Festival.
Oh, I love them. I mean, that to me is what makes Springville Springville. When I think of my hometown, it's those things. I think of the parade, I think of the museum, I think of the rodeo, and I'd love to see those things continue. And I was happy to hear the other night in a meeting talking about moving the rodeo and making sure that it stays alive and that continues. And I hope that it's that way for all the unique things that we do. I love the Folk Fest. I love all of it. And that to me, like I said, is my hometown. So I'm in favor of it. And I love history. I love our, the Art City. The museum. And I think that is a huge piece of what makes us individuals, amongst other cities. So, yeah.
Thank you. We have 3 questions in the bucket. So how do you want to proceed?
But there we go. We're going to leave the 3 in the bucket. But we are going to open it up to anyone in the audience. If you have a question that you would like to ask, this is your time. Yes, and you want to come up to the front? Okay. And then come on up to the front, and you can just speak right into that microphone. Thank you. No.
Do I need to address one particular candidate, or can I leave it open to whoever wants to answer?
Either way, if you have something for a particular one, but I think it's better to address the question and then let Logan can start, and then we can go down the line.
Great. Have you read the different Springville master plans, and do you feel they're an accurate representation of what the city wants and needs for the future?
Yes, I've been involved, as I mentioned, in the Parks and Trails Master Plan, the Active Transportation Master Plan, which informs the Master Transportation Plan. You and I serve on the PAR board together, and so we've been able to be part of that. They're working on, are working on the reframing downtown plan. There's a new arts master plan coming online. So there's a lot of great plans that we are creating and that I've had the opportunity to not just read but even play a part in. The question, of course, is whether those plans get made and then just sit on a shelf. And that's part of why I want to run, is because I've had a role in these plans. I know that they'll be good for Springville if we execute them, and so I'd love to help move them forward. You know, the council passing these plans in some ways is the finish line for them, but I view it kind of as the starting line.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I reviewed the old 2015 general plan. I looked over that a little bit and compared it to where we're at today. It's pretty close. As to where we're at, they did mention Lakeside Landing, I think, in it, or some type of community growth out on the Westfields. And I think they're moving along with that. And so I thought that it was pretty on par for where we're at now. And I know they're redoing the general plan for that. But I did read the Reframing Downtown and the Active Transportation Plan, and I feel like these are very fresh, new, great plans for us to get a jumping start from. Now, what I loved about these plans is that they're not set in stone, that they are flexible, and they can change as needed. But I feel like you have to have a plan to get started, to move into a good direction, and I feel like these are solid plans.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah, reading through the plans, I think really what it's doing is it's setting the tone for what can happen. The great job that the community development team and different boards has done is not only have they taken the overall general plan and masking it out of where things can occur for active transportation master plan, the Springville downtown Main Street plan and everything, is that they've taken it a step further in providing ways to be able to pay for it, which is obviously the biggest question in terms of a resident not wanting their taxes to increase. That's a big common theme, is people do not want their taxes, at least here in Springville, they don't want their taxes to increase. And so I think they've done a great job of providing ways to be able to address that while making the impact as minimal on the residents as possible.
Thank you.
These get harder as you go because you get to be to the end. So,
And can I just so quite clarify, there was a two-part question that said, have you read the different master plans and do you feel they're an accurate representation? And I feel like talking about them being accurate representation is being addressed, and that's great. I do want to know, yes or no, have you read each of the master plans, which would be the Parks and Recreation, active transportation, the reframing downtown, and then of course there's the overall city master plan. I feel like that'd be important.
Why don't we just let them answer the first part, and then I think the second part of your question is a simple yes or no. So if we want to continue on, just answer the first part of that question, and then we can go through and you can say yes or no to her second part of the question.
I'll make it easy, yes. Yeah, and a lot of what Hunter said, once you have a plan, you've got to execute the plan, and that's what I think that's why the city continues to update some of those plans throughout the years, because things change, people change. The way we live changes. I mean, if you look at housing right now, 10 years ago, I wasn't worried about where my kids are going to live. Now I am. And things, as Logan's address, also change with housing, with transportation. Who knows what's next? Flying cars? Then we got to figure that out, right? So it's always going to be out there. But as long as we're doing it and finding a way to fund it, that is a big issue, always finding the way to find those funds that we need to make these things happen, because sitting on a transportation plan was a $63 million, if I remember, something like that, to make it all happen at one time. That's a lot of money. And so you got to bite it off a little bit at a time, right, and move forward. And I think there's some great plans for that. But now let's go make it happen, which I think is the most important part of that.
It takes time, yeah.
No, I've not read every word of every one of those plans that you stated, but I am excited to read them and to get to know them better. I'm excited for the new plans that are being formulated right now, and I have the knowledge of the time that I've spent with these guys learning all of this stuff. So, yeah.
So we can just go through it, quick yes or no, starting with Logan. Have you
Yes.
read them all? You can restate that second part of your question now.
Have you read the different master plans, including the active transportation plan, the reframing downtown, and the parks and recreation master plan?
The only plan that I haven't read is the Parks and Recreation Plan, but the other three I have.
Yeah, same. I have not read the Parks and Recreation Plan. All the other ones I have.
Encourage you to do that. It's great. Okay. Am I allowed to ask her a question, or should I? Is there?
Well, are there any other questions? Okay,
Okay.
I. Yeah. Hold on just a second.
Start?
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say, you ought to let Mindy start, or Jay, so it's, so that Jake's not always at the end.
He's been doing
I'm happy. Let someone else go.
Right, but
I
For
just have a
me.
question
Make it
if
more
someone's
fair.
not.
I would really like to rotate, so why don't you just hold on to that question and we'll come right back to you. And then, yes, ma'am, if you want to come up, and then we'll go ahead and start with Mindy on this one.
People talk a lot about maintaining the small town feel of Springville. Springville has 36,000 residents, so are we still a small town, and what does this mean to you? And how do we maintain this feel as Springville grows?
So I envision almost like two Springvilles. So our Springville that has our past, our culture, everything in our downtown area is right before us, and that is the revitalization of our downtown. That's who we are. But I also envision a second Springville, which is more on the west side, where we add a little bit different feel, maybe a little more contemporary feel, where we have a little bit more higher density. I know that's a bad word sometimes, but we also offer like the neighborhood mom and pop stores, a little bit more walkability, green space, and things of that nature. Also, where the front runner might come through, which will also bring a lot more people in. So I feel like there's almost like two different types of Springville, but we are all still one, especially with the growth coming out that we can have in the Westfields. I feel like we can definitely fit the two different types of culture.
It's an interesting question. I think, at least just based on, I probably have this approach based on my stage of life, but my Springville right now is within a short radius of where I live, because I have young children and they got to stay close, essentially. And so when in terms of maintaining that small town feel, it goes back to previous comments that I've made of it needs to be more of a neighborhood focused type of development in terms of a neighborhood scale. Being able to, whether it's in the Westfields or even here in historic downtown, being able to address the growth in a way that whether I live next to Reams or out by I-15, within a short distance of my home, I have my needs met. And part of that also being that the growth that does happen, whether it's high density apartments like what's happened or lower density missing middle like what Logan has mentioned, that can incrementally happen at any one of those neighborhood centers.
I will agree with you. We are not a small town. We want to be a small town, but we're not. We're big now. Springville's grown a lot. When I was first here, it was 8,000 people. It was a long time ago. Now we're 38, almost 40,000 people. So do we keep our small town feel? I think to some of that, you want to try and keep your identity. We're the art city. That's what we're trying to accomplish right now, I think. And keeping that look and feel, I guess, for downtown works, at least for the core downtown. But as you get out to that end, the north end of town, it doesn't feel the same as you drive to Provo any longer, right? It doesn't feel the same when you go out on 4th South. So we are going to grow. We can't stop that. I mean, you can't. It's against the law. So we need to make sure that we do that properly, of course, but we also want the people in the different parts of town to feel part of the community. So I don't know if that's here at the city center, if we have, more centers down that way. It's been interesting for me because I've recently moved to the west part of town. So I've got to know a whole other set of people and a whole different breed of Springvilleites, I guess.
It is hard not to just say ditto. Yeah, I feel that way. Because we are growing up. We know that we're going to continue to grow. We've got large developments coming. And when I think of small town feel, I'm grateful for the question that I got before on the cultural stuff, because that's really where I feel like that comes into play. But we still have a small town feel, I believe. I mean, just the other day, Sergeant Mike Barlow, I believe is his name, stopped traffic so that my little boy, who looked nervous on his scooter, could cross Center Street right down here by the fire station. And my little boy in his prayers said, "Thank you for the good police officer who stopped the cars from hitting me," you know? And when I think of a small town, I think of men and women who do that kind of stuff, you know? Anyway, thank you.
Yeah, I will agree that we're really not a small town anymore. We are a city. We're the art city. And I think when people say the word small town feel, it's hard to define, but I think a lot of what people mean by small town feel is a sense of place and a sense of connection to your community. Some of the things I mentioned earlier tonight about walking and biking really foster some of that community and sense of place. Things like the Reframing Downtown plan that will help foster new businesses, will help create that sense of place. And we want that not just in our downtown. We want that sense of place throughout the whole city. We don't want it to just feel like, you're in a particular neighborhood on the north side or on the west side, and it could just be any town in the U.S. We want it to feel uniquely Springville. And I think a lot of that is connecting people to each other and giving them places to connect and events at which to connect. So we have a lot of great programs and a lot of kind of third spaces is what they're sometimes called. So
Thank you.
And we will go ahead. I'm sorry. We're going to go ahead, and Hunter, you'll start.
Okay. Respectfully, Mr. Conover answered this question, and I'd like to hear from the other candidates as well. How might you improve diversity, equity, and inclusion in the city and represent different demographics than your own? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, hi. I guess I do think that I am an interesting demographic, and I am a white male, if that's the kind of demographic or the types of things that you're trying to address. But at the same time, I'm also under 30 with young children under the age of 6. And so ways to get community members like that involved, but also I think Springville actually does have a large population of Hispanic people that, from what I understand, do feel connected in Springville. And so I don't know. I would have to agree with Craig. I don't know that there's a great issue that Springville has, at least in my experience. And if it is an issue, I would be more than willing to hear about it, and so that it could be addressed. But as of right now, I don't have a good answer how to address it because I don't know what the issue is.
Okay, I'll just start out with some of the things that I have done in the past. Just in this past year, I was able to find money and come up with a Springville Summer Concert Series that we had at the Arts Park that was free for the community. Anyone could come. We did that through funding through Central Bank. That was one way. It included everyone. I'm also a huge advocate of the Hispanic community. I've been involved with the Latin Festival Latino Americano in Provo for the past 30 years since its inception. I was usually excited to start the festival here in Springville that I hope that continues to come with Art City Days. I've been involved with Art City Days for I can't even remember how long, in helping with many aspects of that, hopefully to include all sections of our community. So I'm going to leave it with that with my record, if that's okay.
Yeah, I've been on a Latino inclusion committee as well. And I think that Springville does a really good job. I think they go out and people feel welcome. I know that I have a lot of neighbors that are probably from different demographics, and they love the things that Springville provides. So I feel like Springville's doing a good job, and I have love and empathy for everybody.
I'm glad to get the chance to answer this question. I know diversity, equity, inclusion sometimes becomes this kind of culture war buzzword. But I feel like we have things like Celebrarte, which a few years ago didn't even exist, and now it kind of feels like I can't imagine Art City Days without it. It's such a great, unique addition to our community. And those sort of things are the things that I would look to foster in Springville. So I would want people on committees and people on the council and people in focus groups. Whenever we're working on a project, we want as many diverse voices as possible, because sometimes you don't even know what you don't know. And so the more people who are contributing, the better it is for our city. And we end up with things like Celebrarte. And there are other things I haven't even thought of. Maybe you guys haven't even thought of. Or maybe someone in the audience here has a great idea that could kind of tie our city together and foster that inclusion.
DEI. So I serve on the committee of our DEI group at Clyde Companies. I do feel like there is always room for improvement in this area. Let me just give you a couple examples. How about a Spanish version of our newsletter? How about some Spanish on our websites? I feel like there's a lot of room for improvement in all of these areas. I don't feel like we have reached, where we can say, yay, we're there. But I feel like we're making steps and strides toward, and that's why you've got to count that. I feel like equity is not the same as equality. Equity is, somebody might have a little more and somebody might have a little less, and that is then making them both be equitable. So I feel like we can definitely work and improve in this area.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions? These, come on up.
We're going to start with Craig as
Perfect.
Yes.
pattern.
Yes.
Okay.
Go with the old guy.
Interestingly enough, the question is more to everyone but you. But I will.
We can start with Jake.
I will ask
I'm
you
good with that.
regardless. So prior city councils have been made up of folks that we knew very well. They're all from the same types of names in Springville. They had all generally served before. It was kind of just an old boys club. And I would say that this election right now kind of just surprised everybody, where none of those old guys were running again. And so there was an opportunity for lots of new faces. What I do want to ask is, before you decided to run, give me a picture of what type of engagement you had with civic things here in Springville before this. I know you all jump on Facebook, you take pictures at all the usual places, but as far as an actual history and track record of being a patron of the library, the rec center, of coming and participating in councils, etc., paint that picture for me. And you can obviously answer.
You want me to?
But you're
I'm
limited in
happy.
time.
I'm happy to answer that. I mean, I can say my record speaks for itself, but I've been involved with Art City Days for, like I said, I don't know how long. I've been put the concert and fireworks together for years. And other aspects of Art City Days came up with the Duct Tape Regatta, things like that. I've been on the Chamber forever. I came up with Safe Halloween, started that, came up with the Chamber Golf Tournament, started that. We've made tens of thousands of dollars to give away to students here in our community, served on the electric board, on the parks board, helped with many parks throughout this community. Just recently, I found $300,000 to finish the bike park that we're making right now. I might talk a little bit more about that in my wrap-up, but I just feel like I've always been involved in the community. It's in my DNA. My grandma used to take me out and show me trees because she started Tree City USA. So I just feel like I got that DNA in me. My family's always been involved, having the newspaper. It's just a thing, I guess. But I just want to help and be involved, and that's why I'm running.
I was pretty surprised by this election as well, with how it panned out and who decided to throw their hat in the ring. And I'm no Craig Conover. You know, I'm a regular guy. I'm just a citizen, and unfortunately, I feel like sometimes being a regular guy means I didn't participate as much as I probably should have. And paying attention these last months that I've been running, I realized how little I did actually do and how much good one person can do. I've been in these meetings where one person stands up and then they make a difference, and the city council changes what they were going to do based off of one person. And I wish more people did participate. I mean, I've been a lifelong resident. This is my city. I've done all the city things. I love doing all of the stuff that the city offers, but I wish that more people would be involved. I'm grateful for everybody that came out here. I feel like there should be more people wondering who's going to be in charge of the city. Anyway.
Yeah, I was not born here. My parents, when I was about 10, they were trying to decide, should we move to Mapleton or Springville? And all of us kids were like, no, Springville, definitely Springville. One of the things that brought us here was the art museum. And we loved, from the beginning, before we even lived here, those traditions. Because I've always been so passionate since a young age, Sorry, I just lost my train of thought. I wanted to be more involved. So about 4 years ago, like I mentioned, I started coming here regularly because it felt like this was the best place to find out what's happening in my city, to be in the room where the discussions are happening and where the decisions are being made. And I've been there for the last 4 years, and I feel like I've been as involved as I can be. And so now, because there is an opening, I'm running because I feel like I want to be more involved. I want to be part of this community and help guide its growth.
So the activity that that I participated in was similar to Jake. I love our community, but we probably do a lot more service towards the Springville High School, the different games. Our children were there, so we were there a lot. We did everything with all of the sports teams and things with Springville High School. But this year I did get to help with the Springville Art City Days a little bit, attend, be on their committee, help out. And then through work, we have an LLC called Springville Rising, and I got to participate in that with Elsie Powley, and we bought this building that is just east of the Springville Library and renovated that apartment building. It had a lot of meth, drugs, just a lot of dilapidation, and they renovated it, and now it's a beautiful building, and it's a beautiful apartment complex that I think adds to Springville City.
I got a relatively short track record compared to those up here, but part of what my activity is in the city is really kind of regular as a normal citizen. Like Jake, I wish I would have been more involved in city government before this election, before the months leading up to the election. But like I attend the rec center every morning, and that is a melting pot for all sorts of people here in Springville. I am actively involved in the activities that my kids are doing through the rec program here in the city. I really, where my desire to get involved more is where I grew up, which was the Highland Alpine American Fork area, was like Springville is now. This is nostalgic. And we kind of know how that's turned out. And that I think there's now, with the knowledge and expertise that I have, I can help Springville maintain what I want my kids to grow up in, that I grew up in that area.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you all. We are going to go ahead and start with our closing statements. And just as a reminder, you have 2 minutes to present your closing statement. And we're going to start on this end with Jacob. And then we'll just make the round again. And Craig, you're going to be last. All righty. So go ahead, Jake.
Thank you. Let's start off with the whole Jake thing. I feel like I need to explain to everybody that my name on the ballot is Jacob Greg Smith, because I thought I had to put my legal name to run for office. So that shows you how, but I go by Jake. My grandpa is the only one in my life that ever called me Jacob, other than you, just barely, or a bill collector. So I hang up if you call me Jacob, but it's Jake Smith it'll be Jacob Greg Smith on the ballot. But the stuff that's important to me, I mean, some of my signs have it on there. I say service, stewardship, and safety. And for me, service, that's just a personal thing. I believe in service. I was taught to believe in service. You serve your family, you serve your church, and you serve your community. And I've not been the best at serving the community, and I want to change that. I helped up at Mapleton Fire Department and on another search and rescue team, but I've not served my community to the best of my abilities, which I want to change and do better. Stewardship. I just feel like what we're doing is figuring out what's going to happen in the next few decades for Springville. And I think we have a stewardship to do it right. And safety, I think public safety is the center of the bullseye if you're looking at city stuff. I really believe public safety and what we do there is the very center. And then it's public works, and then it goes out to just all the other programs and awesome things that is the small town feel for Springville. And I'm done. Amen.
All right. When I think of Springville, we've been here since 1850, and I wonder what will Springville look like in the next 150 years, 200 years, 300 years. What will this city look like? And I hope when we reach that point, I hope all of our children and grandchildren and their grandchildren and great-grandchildren can still live here in the city that we love so much. And I hope they will reap the benefits of the work that we do today and the planning we do today. And I hope that our city is one where people feel a strong sense of connection. So there's no east side versus west side. There's no my neighborhood versus your neighborhood. I want it to be a place where we all feel really connected, where we all feel like we have these strong traditions that run really deep and that bind us together to people that we didn't know before. And I hope that this connection creates kind of a synergy in our city that leads to success for businesses and leads to success for artists and leads to success for children in school. And I hope that in order to accomplish this, I think there are some pretty small levers that we can pull now that will make it a lot easier, so that when someone is looking to open a business, the obvious answer is, oh, you should go to Springville. It's open a business there because you will do really well. Or like if there's a woman who's now a widower and all her kids are moved away and she has this big empty house, I hope it's really easy for her to convert that into small little apartments so that she can have people who can kind of keep an eye on her, and there's more homes for the people who move into those places. Just these small changes they can really help create the long-term sustainability of our infrastructure, of our community, our traditions, and our sense of Springville as art city.
So I first want to just thank the Springville Mapleton Chamber of Commerce for putting this together. We've done some other meet and greets together, and I feel like every opportunity that we have to share our thoughts is a great opportunity, and so I really appreciate the time that you've given us. The second thing is I honestly feel like all of my fellow candidates, we align very similarly. I feel like we stand together and we want what is best for Springville, and I think we align a lot together. We want to have growth in our city. We want it to be balanced. We want it to bring in the revenue it needs to be able to support the other programs that we have in our city. We don't want our city to become stagnant. We don't want it to become a place where people don't want to come to live. We love our community, and so I think we can work together in whatever form. If we don't make it to the city council, I think we'll all still be very much involved in our city. There's a lot of different planning boards and commissions. There's a lot of ways to help Springville, and so I feel like we can do that, and I feel very grateful for this opportunity to have shared my thoughts and my opinions and my priorities for Springville today.
Thank you for the Springville and Mapleton Chamber of Commerce putting this on, but also thanks to everyone that came. It's refreshing to see the room semi-full. But also, for me, it really comes down to creating better connection with people. Whether that's, I've talked a lot about development and architecture and planning a lot tonight, but really it comes down to connection with people in terms of, I feel the most disconnected from my community when I'm sitting in traffic on 4th South. You know, I am the most disconnected from my community when I'm driving, honestly, through Spanish Fork New Business District. I don't feel a connection to Spanish Fork at all when I drive through there. But in terms of ways to better that connection, I feel that we are going in the right direction, but there's still a lot of work to do. I want my kids to be able to grow up in a community where they feel connected to their neighbors, where they feel connected to the city that they live in, and there are programs and ways for them to be able to grow and mature and become valuable members of society. And I believe that Springville can become that city here in southern Utah County, because the sprawl development and overdevelopment is happening all around us, but there are ways that Springville can foster better human connection, whether it's through active transportation, more housing options, different ways for community members to be able to interact with each other. Like, if you know Bob at the rec center, let me tell you, he is awesome. He is 87 years old. She knows Bob. And he's walking 3 miles a day every morning, and he's great. But those types of connections that I'm able to connect with people that I never would have otherwise been able to have known, Springville fosters that and gives that opportunity for us to be able to connect. And so that is really the main reason why I feel that I'd be a good fit for city council.
Well, I guess I'll go last. First off, thank you all for coming and showing that you care about Springville. That's very important. And for those watching too, that's the best thing about tonight, is that you show that you really care about your community and what happens in your community. Throughout, I mean, you touched on this a little bit. I do hope that, you know, whoever wins, that the rest of you do stay involved. I mean, I've been down both sides of this road. I've won, I've lost, I've helped, but I've never quit. And I've never quit serving Springville, even if I didn't make it onto the city council. I've still continued to do things for this community to try and make it better and a better place for everyone to live. That's something that I think I was just taught young in my life, that if you're going to live somewhere, you've got to support it and you've got to do your part to make it a better place. And that's really my goal, is to make Springville as good as it can be and do whatever I can to make that happen. And like I said, I'm a get it done kind of guy. I like to do things. I like to take on challenges, and I enjoy the challenge. It's just the way I've always been. And I won't quit. If I don't make it on city council, that's fine. I'm still going to keep helping Springville and keep trying to do things that are exciting for people and that people like to do, so they want to live here and be here and enjoy our community. Thank you again for coming.
Before we wrap up tonight, I just want to remind everyone that this was on our YouTube, Springville Chamber YouTube station. Oh, Springville City Council YouTube. I said that wrong. And if you want to revisit any of the questions and answers, you can go back and watch that there. But from the Springville Mapleton Chamber of Commerce, we appreciate your time that you took to come tonight. And it's a hard thing to be up there and have questions asked, but we appreciate your honesty and your upfront, and we are grateful for this opportunity to not only serve the community, but get to know our candidates a little bit better. Thank you, and I'm assuming if anyone has personal questions, you will be all available to stay after a little bit tonight until 8:30. We've got a few more minutes, about 10 minutes left. So thank you for coming, and we appreciate your time.
Yeah. Happened to me the other night when Jake passed me gum and I couldn't speak.
Salivating, it was such a sweet gum. Good job, everyone.
It was kind of fun.